Hello everyone and welcome back to Weekend Tabletop Warrior. Today we are going to go over the final tutorial in the Fallout Wasteland Warfare Getting Acclimated guide. This guide is found on the back and it is called Solving the Rat Problem. Now over the last 3 tutorials we've gone over how to move in the wasteland, how to run up and hit things, and how to shoot from a relatively short distance. Today we are going to be looking at how to shoot from a bit of a longer distance. The dice mechanics and the range ruler mechanics for longer range weapons, and we're also going to be looking at how armor works and how health works in this game as well. I also have a small little sub-tutorial that I'm going to throw in here, as I normally do, on how to shoot through and around cover and that sort of thing, because terrain is actually a big part of this game that they don't really cover in this Getting Acclimated guide, so I'd like to throw that in there as well. So you'll see in this tutorial our lone survivor, sole survivor, Nora, has come across an abandoned settlement, and there's a lot of mole rat mounds nearby, and she needs to shoot them to close them up. So those are all represented on the board by our little markers here. And those markers represent, like I said, those mounds. They have 3 health each and armor rating of 1 physical. So we're going to be shooting physical damage here with our hunting rifle today. The other types of damage in this game, again, are energy and radiation. We will not be looking at those today. So just by looking at our hunting rifle card, we know that it does a base of 2 physical damage. And we'll have to kind of see how things work out against the armor rating of 1 for that type of damage. So any mound within range can be shot, so we'll go over how to use that. And we win this scenario when each one of the mounds has at least 1 damage on it, it sounds like. So keep it up until you have scored 1 damage after armor on each mound. So we don't have to actually take them out, we just have to deal damage to all of them. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. We've already taken a look at our hunting rifle on the page there. Let's take another look at our Sole Survivor Day 1's card here again. Now we'll see our hunting rifle is represented by this symbol here, and we know that because if we take a look at the card, in the top left hand corner we'll see that symbol in this little vault gear icon here. So we know that's the symbol we're looking for to use this weapon, what skill we're using. And that icon can be found here under Perception, which for her is 5. So we're going to go ahead and use those skill tests again to see if we're hitting those mounds. So 5 is the number we need to get in order to hit. 5 or less is what we're looking for. You'll notice we have a new die here that we're looking at, and there's the red die. This is the armor dice. So the way this works can be a little tricky at first. You're pretty much going to use this in every one of your games. Almost everybody has some sort of armor rating that's going to be on any team. And the way it works, let's say with the mole rat mounts, they have an armor rating of 1, right? So we're going to try to get at least that number or less. So in this case, it's just going to be 1 because there's nothing less than 1 on this die. When you roll that number, you are going to remove the amount of damage done to you by that number. So this is where it gets a little tricky. You have an armor rating of 3, let's say. You expect to, when you roll a 3 or less, to maybe block 3 damage. No, you're only blocking the amount that's rolled as well. So let's say you do have an armor rating of 3. If you roll a 3, a 2, or a 1, your armor succeeds, but it only blocks the amount of damage that's shown on that face of the die. So if you roll a 1, you're still only blocking 1 damage that's coming at you. So let's demonstrate how that works. These mole rat mounds only have 1 armor on them anyway. So what we're going to do is, we know our hunting rifle has a quite a long range here, and the other thing we're going to be looking at is how the dice work when you're rolling for attacks with these longer range weapons. When you're within blue, you're going to throw the white die plus 2 yellow. You're also going to put a black range ruler on the other side of that blue range ruler to see if it's within range of the second range, which is black. And if you're throwing within that range, you're going to be throwing 2 green dice instead of the 2 yellow dice. So it has better accuracy at longer range, but it will break more armor at shorter range. So I'll show you how that looks. And again, it does 2 damage, 2 physical damage to anything that it hits. So let's go ahead and see what range we're in for a lot of these things. We can probably hit most of these things with just by standing where we're standing. So the way this works is we're going to take the blue range ruler and the black range ruler, and we're going to put them down like this. So it looks like, yes, we can hit everything from where we're standing. It just makes it a little different because you'll see some of them fall within that blue range and some of them fall within that black range. And that's what tells us what kind of die we're going to use. So we don't even have to actually move our Soul Survivor at all for this scenario. But I might move her just to kind of show you how the terrain works when we get a little further down the line here. So so we know these guys that are immediately closest to us, these mole mounds here, these are in blue. So we know by looking at our card here that because they're within blue, we're throwing 2 yellow dice. So let's go ahead and do that. So these are within blue. I'm going to target the one closest to her first. So we're going to pick up one of our white die here because we're always going to throw that for a skill test. And I'm going to grab 2 yellow dice to throw with it as well. So this is the one I'm aiming for. Remember, I just have to deal 1 point of damage to it at some point. The hunting rifle does a base damage of 2. So let's see how this rolls up. So I'm looking for a 5 or less. I rolled a 4. I actually break through 2 armor. So the way this shakes out is the mole rat's armor is down to 0, so it doesn't actually roll this check anymore because there's no armor to be rolled. So it just deals the base damage of 2 to this mound. And I've got a little 2 here. Looks like a little blast marker. So I'm going to put that down here on the one we just hit to show that we dealt 2 damage to it. Alright, so we've dealt some damage to that one. Let's target this guy over here. So I'm going to do the same thing because we're still within that blue range, so I'm going to throw the same dice at it this time. Okay, so I missed because I rolled a 7. Now remember, we have to get a 5 because it's her perception or less to hit. So that was actually not a hit at all. So we're going to target the same one again. We're going to target that one. We're going to roll again. Okay, so we got 2 armor breaks, but we rolled a 10. So we still miss because that's higher than 5. So I'm going to try to shoot at this guy again. Again, I'm shooting at that one over there. And there we go. So we get a critical hit. Now, this is going to be very interesting because since the mole rat mount has 1 point of armor, we get another armor break. Again, that's what this looks like. It looks like a little shield or bell or something that's splitting in 2. Maybe it's a piece of armor. It would make sense, it's a helmet. Okay, duh. So it brings its armor value from 1 to 0 again. Now, because I also rolled this blast marker, it's going to deal an additional point of damage, which is 3. So not only did it break through its armor, it also just completely destroyed this thing, which has a health of 3, because I dealt the 2 base damage from the weapon, plus the additional 1, broke through all its armor, so now this one is gone. Almost sounded like a nursery rhyme for the wasteland or something. So we're going to target this guy over here. Again, it's still within blue. We know from our measurement earlier. So we're going to roll the same amount of dice. Alright, so what happens here now is we actually get to see how the armor mechanic works because we've been breaking through so much armor because we're at close range with that hunting rifle. We got a 4 here. So that's less than 5 already. We got 2 minus 1, so it brought that down to a 2. So essentially we hit it. So now what's going to happen is this thing still has an armor of 1 because we've not broken it down yet. So we're going to roll this guy here. So the amount of damage possibly coming at this mound is going to be 2. So we need to roll again a 1 on this dice because the mole rat mounds have an armor of 1. So we need to roll that number or less, which in this case is just 1. So there's I think 4 1s on here, so it's maybe even more than that. So it's going to be a higher chance to get a 1 on here. Obviously, the higher the armor rating, the higher chance you have to roll for armor. It's just not guaranteed how much you're going to be blocking for. So we're going to hopefully see at least one of these ones come up for the mole rat mound. So it did roll a 1. So now what happens is we have 2 damage coming in from our Soul Survivor's hunting rifle. 1 of that damage gets blocked because that is the number on the face of the die. And we rolled a 1, which is the number on the armor. So it needs to be 1 or less to succeed, and then we reduce the damage coming at you by the amount on the face of the die. So it only takes 1 damage, but we just needed to get 1 damage on it. Remember, for the scenario, I'm going to put this little token on here again just to show that we have 1 damage on it, and we're going to move on to these other 2 targets here. Now we know that we're within range to hit them, right? So we don't even have to move again, but now we are in black range for these 2 mole rat mounds here. So instead of using the 2 yellow dice, now we are in that longer range band, and we're going to be throwing green dice instead. We're still going to be dealing the 2 base damage. Again, this is for critical hits. If you look back at my other video, I reviewed how the critical hits work. So check out some of my other videos to see that. So we're going to be throwing 2 green dice instead of the yellow dice. So we're going to have a pretty hard time getting some armor breaks. There are a few here on the green die, but it's mostly going to be helping us with our accuracy again. Maybe 2 or so armor breaks. Mostly we're looking at the minus numbers to help us with the accuracy. So we're going to aim at this mole rat mound way down on the other side here. So hopefully we can hit it based on the accuracy bonuses that we have from the green dice. I'm going to roll these guys up. And okay, so we have a 4 here. -1, so this is 3, so it would have hit anyway because we're looking for a 5 or less. We do have an additional blast marker. So we're about to deal potentially 3 damage to this mole rat mound over here, but we didn't break any armor. So the mole rat mound gets to roll its dice for defense for its armor. So again, it's looking for a 1 to block 1. If it doesn't block anything, the mole rat mound is actually destroyed because it has a health of 3, and 3 damage is about to hit it. So the mole rat mound is going to roll the defense die here, and it rolls a 3. Now you might think, oh, a 3, that's a good number. We still just want to hit the number on the armor or less. So we wanted a 1 actually. Because we rolled a 3, anything higher than 1, no armor is reduced from the hit. So it actually takes the full brunt of the 3 damage. Now let me just say this again. If you roll anything other than the number or less that's on the armor rating of a particular card or a piece of terrain or something, you're gonna miss the armor save, I guess. So because we roll anything other than that number or less, it counts as not succeeding the armor roll. So because of that, that mole rat mound takes all 3 damage that was coming at it and is destroyed. Alright, now we're going to move on to something a little more advanced because we have 1 mole rat mound that hasn't been dealt any damage, and we're going to take a quick look at how terrain might impact your longer range shots and things like that. So let's say this is car that I'm working on here. I'm hopefully going to post a video on that in a while here when I complete it. But this is basically a regular die-cast car that I'm working on to make for the Wasteland here. And let's say that it's smack dab right in the way of that thing that we're trying to hit. So what happens when you're shooting through cover is that the skill you're using to attack the target that's protected by cover, you're going to reduce that skill value by 2. So if we look at our Soul Survivor's card here, we're going to remember that she's using Perception, which has a rank of 5. If we're shooting through the cover, it's going to go down by 2 points. So her perception is going to effectively be 3 when shooting through that car. So it's going to be a little bit harder to hit. Hopefully the green dice in this case can give us some accuracy bonuses, so maybe we can get that 3. And the other benefit is now that mole rat mound has an armor rating of +1. So it goes from a 1 to a 2. So there's a lot of benefits to hiding behind cover, so it makes you harder to hit, and it gives you more protection against the damage if the hit does succeed against you. So again, now if we're shooting at this mole rat mound over here, the number we're looking for when we roll the white die is now a 3, and the armor rating of this mole rat mound is now 2. So let's take a roll of our dice here again. We're in the black range band, range ruler, so we're going to be throwing the green dice instead of the yellow dice here. So let's see how this plays out. So we're going to roll. Okay, so we rolled a 10, so that's a miss. So the other symbols don't count. So let's go ahead and roll that up again. Okay, so we rolled a 7, which by itself would not be enough. We have a -2 and a -1, which brings us down to 4. Still not a 3. Remember, we're not looking for 5s anymore because we're shooting through this car. We're looking for a 3 or less, so that's still a miss. So I'm going to roll these up again. So you can see why hiding behind cover is important. Again, we have an 8 with a -3, so that's 5. So if we're not shooting through the car, we would have hit. So just to kind of show you how important cover is in this game, it's a total difference between being hit and not being hit. Okay, so now we got the gear icon there, which is a quick action, which counts as a 1 in this case. We also have a -3 and a -1, which would have been a -4, which probably would have gotten us down there anyway, so you can see why the green dice is so important when shooting at range. Now that we've hit it, now that we know we've at least hit it, we're going to take a look at the damage. Now remember, our hunting rifle only does 2 points of physical damage. Now this mole rat mound has an effective armor rating of 2 because we're shooting through this car. So now, instead of just looking for a 1 on the red die, we're also looking for 2s. So if we roll a 1 or a 2, we're gonna save a little bit of damage being done. If we do roll a 2 for this mole rat mound, no damage will actually get through because only 2 damage is being done to the mole rat mound. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. So we already rolled to hit, so we hit it. So let's see how much damage is actually done. So we're gonna roll the red die for the mole rat mound. We're looking for a 2 or a 1. We get a 3. So remember what that means. No damage is blocked. So all the damage gets through. We deal the 2 damage to the mole rat mound, and we technically have completed this scenario, but I want to show you one more little trick about cover. Now let's say Nora, our sole survivor, was able to move up here. So now our sole survivor is touching this cover. So the line of cover, as it's called, is not being counted from her shots. So think about it this way: if you're actually using the car as cover, you're probably pointing your gun over the top of the car, but kind of hiding most of your body behind it at the same time. So if this mole rat mound had a gun and they're shooting at you on this side, the cover rule is applied for their shot to Nora, but it's not applied from Nora to the mole rat mound because her base is touching the source of cover. So when we're drawing that line from the center to the center, that is ignored as cover for her taking the shot. So effectively, if she moves up to that piece of cover, her perception is 5 again if she is shooting at this mole rat mound. So let's take another shot at doing that, but now remember, we've moved up. So her range is now blue for that mole rat mound. So we're instead going to swap out the green dice for the yellow dice again, and we're going to take a shot to try to finish that thing off. So remember, we're looking for 5s again because the line of cover is excluded for the shot because she's in base contact with it. And that's exactly what we needed. So we broke the 1 piece of armor because, again, the mole rat's not benefiting from any cover bonus from the car because she's touching it. So the 1 armor gets reduced to 0. We get a 1. Technically, it's a critical hit, but it counts as a 1 on that weapon. So 2 more damage is dealt actually to that from the base damage of the hunting rifle. So that mound is destroyed. I hope you guys have enjoyed the playthroughs of the Getting Acclimated guide. This was again our last tutorial solving the rat problem. So we are done with this book, but that does not mean I'm done with Fallout Wasteland Warfare. I'm going to be doing still plenty of things for this game. I'm going to be doing some tutorials on rules that are found in the main rulebook. Some of them can be a little confusing maybe to players that are not familiar with this type of game, or even if you are. I know it took me a couple of read-throughs to kind of get certain rules. This is a pretty thick book, so we're going to be looking through some things. We're going to be exploring cover again with elevation and that sort of thing. I'm also going to be hopefully eventually painting up my models here. I live in the Northeast. It's a little cold here in the wintertime. Not great for priming outdoors, so I'm gonna have to try to find another way to do that. But I do eventually want to paint up some of the items found in this box, including the Death Claw and a bunch of other things, and maybe doing some reviews on builds. I definitely want to talk about how to build your army. That is a video I have recorded. I have to go ahead and edit that as well, but I wanted to put this one out there first. I'm also going to probably be doing some battle reports and playthroughs of this game, so if you have a lot of questions about how certain things play through and work, hopefully those will answer your questions as I play through this game. So a lot more to come still for Fallout Wasteland Warfare. If you like this video or any other video that I've put out there, please hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell notification icon, and you'll be notified anytime I put new content out on YouTube. But until then, have fun in the wasteland, everybody, and happy gaming.